The package arrived just before midnight. Alex Eala had already packed most of her bags. Her French Open campaign was over. The loss still lingered in her mind, replaying itself in fragments every time the hotel room fell quiet. The crowd, the final handshake, the Philippine flags, the feeling of walking away sooner than she had hoped. Paris was moving on. The tournament would continue. But for Alex, the questions remained. What could she have done differently? What comes next? A soft knock interrupted the silence. Her mother opened the door. A hotel employee stood outside holding a carefully wrapped package. "No sender listed," he said politely. Alex frowned. At this hour? The box wasn't large. It wasn't flashy. It didn't look like something designed to make headlines. It looked personal. Curious, she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a pair of custom-made tennis shoes. Not from a sponsor. Not part of a marketing campaign. Just a thoughtful gift from a European artisan who had followed her journey for years. The shoes featured subtle details inspired by her career. A small Philippine sun stitched near the heel. A sampaguita flower embroidered along the side. And one simple word written inside each shoe. Laban. For a moment, Alex didn't say anything. She simply stared. The loss from earlier in the week suddenly felt very far away. Not because the disappointment had disappeared, but because the gift reminded her why she started playing tennis in the first place. Long before rankings. Long before sponsorships. Long before packed stadiums and television cameras. There had only been a dream, a racket, and a belief that a girl from the Philippines could compete with the best players in the world. Her mother smiled. "You've inspired more people than you realize, Anik." Alex ran her fingers across the stitching. Sometimes athletes measure themselves by victories, by trophies, by statistics. But every once in a while, a moment arrives that reminds them their impact reaches beyond the scoreboard. This was one of those moments. She placed the shoes carefully beside her luggage. The next morning, she would leave Paris. The French Open would continue without her. New stories would dominate the headlines. But years from now, she would remember this night. Not because of the match she lost, but because of the reminder she received that somewhere out there, people believed in her journey. And sometimes that's enough to keep moving forward. The shoes sat untouched beside the window. Morning sunlight spilled across the hotel room as Paris slowly came to life below. Alex Eala had barely slept. Not because of the loss. Not because of the headlines. Because of the questions. The kind that arrive when your career begins to change faster than you expected. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. Another interview request. Another brand asking for a meeting. Only a few years earlier, she had been a teenager chasing points on the junior circuit. Now she was becoming one of the most recognizable faces in tennis. Not because of trophies. Because of connection. Millions of people knew her story. Millions saw themselves in her journey. And companies had noticed. "Anik, your phone has not stopped ringing," her mother said with a smile. Alex laughed. "I know. What are they all asking for?" "The same thing." "And what's that?" "Time." That was the strange thing about success. Everyone wants an answer immediately. The media wants headlines. Sponsors want commitments. Fans want certainty. But athletes rarely have that luxury. Sometimes they're still trying to understand their own story, while the world is already writing the next chapter. Throughout the week, reports began circulating across the tennis world. Some claimed major brands were interested in expanding their partnerships with Eala. Others suggested new opportunities could emerge after the season. Most of it was speculation. Some of it was probably wrong. But one thing was becoming impossible to ignore. Alex Eala was no longer simply an emerging player. She was becoming a global sports figure. The attention wasn't being driven solely by results. It was being driven by people. The packed crowds. The Philippine flags. The emotional scenes in Paris. The thousands of supporters who followed every match regardless of the score. That kind of connection is rare in sports. And everyone knew it. Later that afternoon, Alex met with her team. No cameras. No announcements. Just a conversation about the future. Her agent reviewed schedules. Her coaches discussed training blocks. Her mother listened quietly. Eventually, the discussion shifted toward endorsements. "What do you want?" someone asked. The room fell silent. Alex thought for a moment. Then she answered honestly, "I want to get better." No one spoke. "I want to improve my tennis." She looked around the room. "I appreciate every opportunity. I appreciate every company that believes in me. But I don't want business decisions to become bigger than the reason I started playing." Her mother smiled. The coaches nodded. Even her agent laughed. Because the answer sounded exactly like Alex. Simple, direct, honest. The conversation continued for another hour. Plans were made. Schedules were adjusted. Goals were written down. But one decision stood above all the others. No rushing. No distractions. No pressure. The future would still be there after the season ended. For now, there was tennis. There was training. There was the next tournament. As evening settled over Paris, Alex stepped onto the balcony outside her hotel room. The city glowed beneath her. Somewhere in the distance, fans were still sharing photos from Roland Garros, still posting messages, still telling stories about the week they would never forget. Alex looked out at the skyline and smiled. People kept asking what came next, which sponsor, which deal, which opportunity, but she already knew the answer. The next chapter would not be written in a boardroom. It would be written on a tennis court, one point at a time, one match at a time, one step closer to the dream she had been chasing since she was a little girl in Manila. Everything else could wait. The racket would always come first. And deep down, that was exactly why so many people believed in her. This reads like a highly emotional sports documentary script, but many of its central claims appear to be presented as fact without evidence. If you're planning to publish it as a YouTube video or article, I'd strongly recommend distinguishing between verified events and dramatized storytelling. Some elements that would require verification before being presented as factual include the alleged midnight delivery of €25,000 custom Adidas boots to Alex Eala. Reported sponsorship offers worth tens of millions from Adidas and a lifetime counteroffer from Nike. Private meetings between brand executives and Eala. Specific Instagram posts, comments, and like counts. Claims that Eala became the most talked about athlete in Paris. The alleged fan lockout controversy at Roland Garros and subsequent emergency press conference. From a storytelling perspective, the script works because it focuses on loyalty versus money, athlete-fan connection, gratitude and humility, underdog appeal, emotional imagery, the boots, the hotel room, the decision. The strongest line in the entire piece is probably, "These boots are beautiful, but they're not mine. My heart belongs to the swoosh." It creates a clear emotional climax and gives the audience a memorable takeaway. For YouTube, the script would likely perform best if labeled as inspired by Alex Eala's journey, a dramatic sports story. What if Alex Eala faced the biggest sponsorship decision of her career, rather than presenting every detail as established fact? Overall, as a sports drama narrative, it's compelling and cinematic. As journalism, it would need substantial sourcing and verification before publication.